It is the Blitz here on 94.1 at San Antonio Sports Star. Along with Joe Reinagel, I'm Jason Minix, live at the Big Blind at 281 and Redland Road. You know, earlier today I'm watching First Take, and I see my good friend R.J. Ochoa on my 80-inch television. It was a little scary.
That had to be scary as hell.
It was scary. RJ had Emmett Smith on the other day, and they were playing a clip of that. So it was RJ sitting there looking, and Emmett was talking. But it was great. That same RJ Ochoa is now on our YouTube channel and on 94.1 as he joins us on the Buyers Barricades guest line. RJ, how many people tweeted you or texted you a picture of you on First Take this morning?
A lot. It's great to be with you all. And every picture was exactly like the one you sent, Jason. And just to kind of, peek behind the curtain, it's really obvious how much the people who messaged me care about me. And I put you in that box, and I appreciate it because it was just these quick photos. So like it was everybody's like living room or office. Like you could tell they didn't take any kind of time to zoom in or whatever. It was just, oh my God. In a world where we could all rewind our televisions, everybody acted as if the photo had to happen instantly. So
you're not that important to rewind and get a good photo of you actually looking smart or goofy.
And wait a minute, I care about you a lot, RJ, but I didn't retweet you. I mean, is that your how you judge how people like you or not?
You retweet me a lot, Joe, and I know that you and I have an unspoken level of love, and so I don't need you to prove it the way I need others.
I got it.
And you didn't see him on TV this morning, or you would have been, hey, there's RJ. I'll take a picture.
Hey, I did see though. It's congratulations, or 8 years since you won Rock the Mic, my friend. So I saw that memory.
That's right. I had a friend who's doing a Rock the Mic at ESPN's affiliate in Houston. And so I was just offering a level of support. And I didn't realize that when I did that 2 days ago, it was actually on the 8-year anniversary. And so I just finished the Wingstop gift cards that I won last week. But it was a wonderful opportunity. And I've said this every year that literally changed my life. And my debt gratitude to Chris Hall, Jason, of course, Rob, obviously, Ari Temkin, David Chancellor, you, Joe, Pledge, everybody who's had a hand in my career ever since.
Yeah, Greg Shelton is raising his hand, wanting to know where the love is, and I'm sure that was unspoken. Yes.
Greg's the only one who went to my house to set up equipment once upon a time. So, again, an unspoken level of gratitude.
You know, I just, as much as that changed your life, and you said that, you didn't even remember the day, so it couldn't have been that significant. I mean, you know your wedding date, you know when your kid was born, you know your birthday, but that day just escapes you, huh?
You know, it's because it was all a blur. I mean, you know, everything was crazy. Everything was wild. And then everything that happened afterwards, it was, you know, people always ask and have asked in the time, like what I did or whatever. And I'm inordinately blessed. And I'm cheating life right now. But it worked out so for me that my beat was the Cowboys. And that year was the rookie year for Dak Prescott and Zeke Elliott. And that you, Jason, and Rob and Ari and Chance had a lot of dentist appointments or whatever the case was, and that offered opportunities for me. And that the Super Bowl happened to be in Houston, a drivable distance for me. Those factors may not have smiled upon somebody else in any other set of circumstances. And so for that, I mean, I'm also eternally grateful.
Well, I tell you what, we missed you in Oxnard this year. That's for sure. Not having you there was a little bit different, but it was a weird camp, RJ. It really was, as you might imagine, because you might be the most frustrated Cowboy fan I know, next to Jason Minix, and but with all the drama that's happened and the inactivity for the Dallas Cowboys. You heard Micah Parsons today talk about CeeDee Lamb. He's not worried. How worried are you becoming?
My level of worry that CD will be in uniform and on the team week 1 when they play the Browns is extremely low. And so, you know, if that happens, you know, I won't be surprised. And if that happens, that won't be some sort of victory, to be very clear, right? Because there will be some people who are still chugging the Kool-Aid that the front office, you know, is recycling from 3 years ago. And they believe that, hey, as long as CD gets done, this was the right way to handle it. The truth of the matter, and this is irrecoverable at this point, is that this was handled in just about the most inefficient manner that it possibly could be. And that's just CD. And that's also just Dak Prescott. And they're on the verge of repeating that same vicious, self-harming cycle with Micah Parsons. And they simply either are too incompetent to understand that, or they're too ignorant and too unwilling to be, somebody who could change their ways. What's frustrating is that they continue to dig deeper and deeper and deeper. And everybody wants to throw out a point of demarcation. When are you worried? When are you going to panic? Whatever the case may be. I didn't think we would get to August 14th on all of this. We're in the rabbit hole than I ever had plans on, kind of seeing my rations for the trip, my snacks. I burned those like a month ago. You know what I mean? Like, we are truly in the wilderness here. It did not have to be this way, yet somehow, some way, this remains the biggest story with the team.
RJ Ochoa, the editor-in-chief at bloggingtheboys.com here on The Blitz, as he'll join us now. We're in the football season every Wednesday about this time. RJ, I'm with you. I thought when we were in Oxnard, we would see Dak Prescott get his deal. I was kind of hoping for his birthday. It didn't happen. I'm surprised we didn't see CD, and the fact that we're in week 3 and he's still not there. Although Stephen Jones did an interview yesterday with Jory Epstein from Yahoo. And for the first time that I remember, there's actually a deadline spoken about by any of the Joneses or Dak Prescott when Stephen told Jory the goal is to have a deal for Dak done before the start of the regular season. Do you think the idea that he actually said that out loud, said that there was a timeline, a time frame, at least a goal to get it done, that they are maybe closer in their negotiations of getting this deal done for Dak Prescott?
I think it's possible, right? I mean, to your point, it is just the teeniest peek behind, the proverbial curtain, but it's so hard to believe. I mean, again, the fact that we got here after the way they botched the first, set of contract demands and circumstances is truly confounding and truly amazing. And so I have to, I had said, the last kind of 60 days that if the Cowboys packed up in Oxnard and returned home to Frisco, that at that point I would legitimately panic. I would raise the glass case that covers the panic button. And we're just about there. Now, for context and clarity, I suppose, I guess somewhat to that point, Jason, I don't know if either of you know, today is actually the 1-year anniversary of when Zach Martin got his deal that he won. Not an extension, but a rework deal. So I know it feels like we're deeper into things than we were this time a year ago, but to that point, we're now going further than things got with Zach Martin. And I was kind of surprised to hear what Greeny said on McAfee today. I'm sure y'all talked about it and have played it. The national narrative is that these are some incompetent fools, on top of Mount Pius. I mean, I do wonder if that is starting to ring loud because, I mean, find me the person that really believes that the way they're going about this is wise and is the right and proper choice.
Well, it's hard for me to understand anything the Cowboys did this year, I'll be honest with you. But when you're talking about CD Lamb, and we've talked about this before, he's the best player on the team on the offense. Stephen Jones admitted that today. But there's always a caveat, RJ, where he says, yeah, the goal is to do this before the season begins, but we still have to figure out a way to make it work where we can keep all 3 and make sure we can put a team around them. So anytime Jerry or Steven speaks and they say something positive, there's always a caveat at the end of that soundbite.
Yeah, I mean, because, in their mystical, made-up, hypothetical land, playing for the Dallas Cowboys is still, worth something that you should leave money on the table for. They are so willing to overlook the fact that the biggest global superstar in the league plays in Kansas City, Missouri. Half the people that root for him don't even know that he's not in Kansas. And so, the fact is that, yes, there are benefits to being a Dallas Cowboy, but not to the degree that they're worth giving up financial or monetary gain. And they're so unwilling to accept that. And maybe there's something deeper to that, right? Like not wanting to accept change. I mean, we all struggle with that in different capacities in life. But to your point, Joe, remember when CeeDee Lamb was drafted, I remember this very vividly. Obviously, it was during the COVID draft, and his immediate post-draft interview on the team's flagship station, he was asked kind of in a fun way, what number do you want to wear? He said, I want to wear number 10. And not even 3 hours later, he had 80 jerseys in the pro shop because the Cowboys wanted him to wear 88. Jerry forced this on him. They forced him to become this player. And guess what? He did. He called the shot that you had. He's even better than you could have ever possibly dreamt. He is literally coming off the greatest individual statistical season that any wide receiver has ever had in franchise history, and he did not need that cheeky 17th game last year in order to reach those milestones. So if he, in all of his glory, is not worth rewarding and paying ahead of time, imagine you're Tyler Smith and you're up for negotiations next year. Imagine you're Jake Ferguson. I mean, what kind of message? At some point, this whole thing, if you don't buy the narrative of it all, will pay its toll. No offense to Jake Ferguson, he's not CD or Dak or Micah Parsons. So if CD has to go to hell and back to get what he deserves, what are you going to have to do? It's no wonder, obviously, that they don't get any free agents. I don't think it's a matter of being unwilling to anymore. I think some people are like, you know what? I don't want to deal with this.
You know, and again, that's the circus that Jerry loves as we visit with RJ Ochoa, campaigning to be a new agent for CeeDee Lamb, although everything you're saying is absolutely right, especially when the Cowboys love to tell us we like to draft, develop, and pay our guys. Then do it. Then do it.
It's very difficult. In fact, that's a great point, Jason, and I might write about this and not give you a shred of credit.
You never do.
If you trace it back, so CD was the team's first-round draft pick in 2020. They did not have one in 2019 because they had traded it for Amari Cooper. Leighton Vander Esch was the first-round pick in 2018. He did not get an extension with the team. If you recall, they declined his fifth-year option and ultimately did sign him to a one-year deal after that. But the year before, in 2017, was Taco Charlton. Obviously, he didn't get a second deal with the team. The last player to be taken in the first round to kind of live up to the mantra that you described that they love to proclaim proudly, Jason, was Zeke Elliott in 2016. He was a first-round pick, obviously, number 4 overall. And after his third year, even he still had to, after obviously an incredibly decorated first 3 years in the NFL, hold out deep into, things into September before he got what he wanted. And they caved. So it's been 8 years since they actually were the, draft a guy in the first round, pay him early on, and be a forward-thinking franchise. But there are so many people who seem to believe it because I have no idea.
Well, RJ, let me ask you this then, because when we were out in Oxnard, we had Stephen Jones on the air with us here on the Blitz, and he said that a contract offer had been offered to both Dak and to CD at that time. Well, obviously nothing's happened. So let me ask you, what is the holdup? It can't just be about money, can it?
I mean, I think a lot of times, Joe, money is the answer, right? You ever have a problem and you throw money at it and it goes away? I mean, that's kind of what this is. And the Cowboys are notorious for this, right? They're notorious for, lowballing players and trying to get them to take less and fighting through the media and trying to push the agenda that they have to take less in the name of the greater good, despite the fact that other teams are able to solve this just incredibly difficult riddle. And I think the reality of the situation is they do not seem willing to accept that at some point you have to set the market. There are no exceptions to this rule. If you have a franchise player at one of the money 5 positions, obviously quarterback, wide receiver, and pass rusher are among those 5, you have to eat the crap. You have to eat the poop. At some point, it has to be your turn. Even the cheap Cincinnati Bengals understood the premise and were willing to set the market when it comes to Joe Burrow. You can whine, San Antonio Sports Star listeners, you can cry, you can tweet at Jason and Joe about how Dak Prescott isn't as good as Joe Burrow. Welcome to the world of supply and demand. I'm exhausted with trying to explain this in analogies. If buying a house or a television like Jason's 80-inch or a car, whatever the case may be, these are the rules of economics. These are the rules of the real world and not the old school television show on MTV that is near and dear to my heart. And the Cowboys do not want to operate within the parameters of the real world of the rules. And because of that, they let this situation reach a breaking point, and then they get to a place where the players involved have an enormous amount of leverage against them. They've let it happen with CD, they've let it happen with Dak, and they're on the verge of, while they're dealing with those two situations, letting it happen with Micah Parsons.
RJ Ochoa from bloggingtheboys.com. I really didn't want to spend this whole time talking contracts, yet here we are. That's what the Cowboys are doing. Are we being too unfair and critical of the Cowboys? They're not the only team that has players holding out. They're not the only team that has contract situations. The Jets are dealing with this right now. So are the 49ers. There was, until Tua finally got paid, a lot of questions about Tua. This isn't a problem that is just singularly that of Jerry and Stephen Jones and the Dallas Cowboys.
I think that would be a fair point if they hadn't burned up the benefit of the doubt. You look at the Zach Martin situation a year ago. You look at the fact that Zeke Elliott had to hold out. You look at the fact that Des Bryant and that situation kind of went down to the 11th hour when he was on the franchise tag 9 years ago. I mean, this seems to be, by all measure and all objective evidence, a systemic issue for the Cowboys. You're right. The Niners are definitely dealing with it. But the Niners, obviously, last year paid Nick Bosa. Now, he obviously held out as well, and that's worth mentioning. But the Niners are in a different situation where the Niners have a quarterback on a key contract. And people love to bring that up. And to that point, the Cowboys not only failed, but galactically failed to capitalize on their quarterback when he was on a rookie contract. And so there's all these people that say, oh, well, you have to give less, Dak, you have to give less, CD, because they need more. More for what? What are they going to, like, they have a proven track record that is now over a decade long of being unwilling to spend. And so I think when you add up all the layers of context, it's easier to say, okay, yeah, the Jets, they're in their own world of crap. And the Niners, they're in a small world of crap, but they're going to figure things out and beat the Cowboys anyway, because that's what they do. The Cowboys can't even beat the Niners. They lost to the Jets last time they played them, or rather, last time they visited them. They obviously beat them last year. And now, again, the fact that this is the case when it was so predictable, it was known last year that this was going to happen with CD and with Dak, and they didn't care. They let this, fester, and they let this grow and grow and grow and grow. If this was a brand new situation, hey, maybe I'm willing to give them a little bit of benefit here, but they really have burned all that up in my mind.
Just a little bit of pushback, RJ, because when you're talking about paying a quarterback $60 million, and that's by all estimations is you can say he's worth asking for, whatever the case may be, on another long-term contract, if it is that. I mean, that's a lot of money. Jason and I have been talking about this. Dak is going to make $29 million this year, but he's counting $55 million against the cap and $40 million next year if they don't get something done. I mean, at some point in time, the bills come due and you have to figure it out. Now, whether it's the Cowboys' fault or not, because inevitably they end up paying these guys. They do. It may take them longer than you likes or anybody likes, but eventually they do pay these guys. But those bills do come due, and having a quarterback that's the highest paid, especially if you're looking at a $60 million number, that can't be easy to fit everybody in.
That's true, and the bill definitely comes due. And people said, Joe, to your point, you can't pay Dak $40 million a year. There's just no way. You can't do it. It's impossible. And now you look, and $40 million a year is an incredible bargain. And it sounds ridiculous to say, but in 2 years, $60 million a year will look like an incredible bargain. Come to the world of the NFL on television in the United States. In the world, it's the most popular league outside of the Premier League. So that's part of the context, that you have to be willing to look long term, and they don't want to, as much as they say they're allocating things for the future. And beyond that overall idea, getting an extension done with Prescott, had they done so in March, like we all with brains recommended them towards doing so, they would have lowered his cap hit for this year. They would have massaged that number for this year and had money to go out and spend to add players to, help the team in the current moment. The same goes for CeeDee Lamb. And that would be a smart idea if you were good at drafting players and building through the draft the way they love to brag about being. So it completely runs counterculture to the things that they love to tell everybody when they're behind microphones.
Maybe next week we'll actually talk football. Maybe. Maybe. RJ Ochoa, great follow on Twitter, great read on bloggingtheboys.com. 8 years ago, he became our first ever Rock the Mic champion, and you have rocketed to superstardom.
I wouldn't go that far. He's done well for himself. Superstardom?
Dude, he was on First Take today.
Oh, well. So that's the parameter?
No.
I do want to say one thing as I part. Yes. There were a lot of comments asking for my opinions on Trey Lance, and I'll just say this. My thoughts on Trey Lance are similar to the sort of serial stylings of Ryan Eagle at a house in Oxnard, California. That's how I thought Trey Lance played.
Wow, a Tim Spence shot out the door.
Wow.
I love it.
No, that was a Joe shot. I mean, Joe's the one who made the huff and puff about the cereal.
Well, it was Spence's hand that was in the cereal.
Yeah, dude, are you eating that cereal after Spence's hand?
We said we missed you in Oxnard. We didn't say we missed everybody that wasn't on this trip last year, and those bushes at Topper's Pizza did not survive.
Well, R.I.P. Rip in peace to the bushes.
Yeah, there you go. RJ Ochoa, we'll talk to you next Wednesday. Appreciate it. RJ Ochoa from bloggingtheboys.com on the Buyers Barricades guest line, where they provide traffic control, rental, and sales for San Antonio and beyond, online at buyersbarricades.com.